Jesus Christ, did she fall out of bed backwards down a fucking tree, hit every branch on the way down?
Look,
yeah,
I know it's tough for you to understand, but it takes time for some people to take care of their hair. So, you know.
Oh, that was mean and true.
How dare
I
you?
mean, this is not just a smoke.
Fucking bastard.
I told you it's
Nerderotic.com.
I went to see Michael right before this, and I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It's fun. It is a lot of fun, and it's not super deep. It's not some super dissection of every little decision that's ever been made, and none of the controversy stuff around it. It's just about his life, his childhood, and his rise to like the king of pop. You know what I mean? And the music's great. The performance from Jafar Jackson is unreal. And I'm not like the biggest Michael Jackson fan. For all of the women who like spent days passing out and like creaming themselves over him for like forever, and also Jeremy, I'm sure it's like I'm sure it's like an out of body experience for them. For me, who likes Michael Jackson and loves a lot of his songs and stuff, but doesn't know everything about him, it was a lot of fun. It was really good. And I was one of the only white people in the fucking theater. It was packed with black folks, but we all had a good time because music brings people together.
It brought people together.
Good. Ryan, how many racist jokes would you say?
Would you say?
How many racist jokes? How you know, on what scale? Like, how many racist jokes would you think you've made?
I mean, none, because I mean them all. They're not jokes.
You took the punchline.
Yeah, I knew you were the punchline.
I have a question, and it's only for the sake of historical accuracy. This isn't a preference, but I am interested. Does he become more white towards the end of the film or not?
I mean, they do address like the vitiligo and everything throughout the movie, actually.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
Do they address any of like the pedophilia claims?
Well, if you actually listen to what I said, Chrissy, I said they don't get into any type of controversies or anything. So,
I didn't know if
yeah. It ends in like 1987 is when the movie ends.
Yeah, also because apparently the original cut was going in that direction, but then they got sued, or like there was a legal matter brought up that they had to redo reshoots.
So there's a bunch of there's a big chunk of the movie that's still out there that could probably go into a second movie, I'm guessing.
Well, they're talking about doing a sequel, right?
They leave it hanging. Hey, the story is not over. So I guess it'll depend on how this one does. Overall, I think it's a lot of fun. The music's obviously great. The performance of Michael is fantastic. And it's not deep. It's not trying to do anything. It's showing, hey, what they went through, a little bit of insight into why they had, image issues and like this terrible relationship with their father, but still rising to the king of stardom, basically.
Jackson 5, is there a big section on that and then it's like halfway through, or does they kind of skip over that to when it's becoming more of the individual pop star?
It starts as a child when they form the Jackson 5, and it is throughout life as he decides to make Thriller, but is still getting dragged into doing Jackson 5 stuff by Joe and like trying to do his own thing, but his father's still trying to control that, all the way up to that farewell tour for the Jackson 5 where he finally tells him live on stage basically to fuck off. And then, fast forward to his first true solo thing without his dad. And that performance of Bad in London is like the last one, like the last thing of the movie.
There you go. Yeah. It's making, I'm guessing it's making money. The critics hate it. Audiences love it. I think that's going to be a normal thing for a lot of Hollywood from now on. And maybe it should be, considering how critics frame thing. And we'll get into critics in a little bit when we talk about Grace Randolph and how Hollywood might be moving past them a little bit as for access. They might be yesterday's news.
They've moved on.
Even
yesterday's
Tony
news.
at Deadline, who is typically like a show for this kind of stuff, even he described them as pearl clutchers.
Wow.
Wow.
There's been a lot of articles recently as well about how they're not going to film festivals. There's no point. They're losing all their big movies. The ones that go there just get harassed by journalists. So you do come down to, why would you give access to people who are only trying to cause trouble for you?
Yeah.
That force you down, especially if both of them are trying to force you down a path which is against the audience. And so if you please them, you will lose money. Eventually, you're going to have to decide.
And they've replaced them with influencers that are nothing but positivity, like
which is what most of those critics were. And well, here's the problem. And you're right, Garrett. So Access Media was given access, and there were still some critics who got access, but we're honest. You know, there were, but it was becoming few and far between, and they were definitely, admittedly, throwing softballs in these interview questions, and it got to a point where it was not just. That's why they have the top critics and the regular critics on Rotten Tomatoes. So, when Captain Marvel came out and that whole review bombing bullshit happened, they changed the platform on Rotten Tomatoes, right? And it was also after a big company had bought it, because Rotten Tomatoes wasn't always owned by a big company. But they wanted to pad these numbers, so they started giving access and credit to just anybody. So like we've done it. We've gone down the list of reviews, and there 90% of those sites you have never heard of, ever. And they pop, they come, they go, and sites like the Mary Sue or Black Girl Nerds, you know, are given access based on identity, right? So they played that identity politics game. Well, that's yesterday's news now for a lot of Hollywood, because it didn't fucking sell. It didn't sell. So now they're just going to go to straight up influencers.
Also, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the score is for. So they thought, well, the audience trusts the score, so the score has value. It's like, no, the score is only worth the audience trust. And so if you pad the numbers, the score loses all power over anything. It loses the reason for its existence.
Yeah, it becomes meaningless.
And it did that a long time ago. And the corporations empowered the Access Media. They're the ones who did it. So they can get mad at them all day long and mad at Mark Malkin's questions, but they're the ones who were feeding them all the info, and they were the ones who were using them to go after fans too. Now, the Access Media hates the fans too, so they were happy to do it. But this has been something that's been going on for a long time. As somebody, we all did here. We all used to, read Ain't It Cool News, and like back in the day when CBR would actually do like comic book news,
Film, Collider,
Newsarama, it was like they were normal, and then they stopped being normal, and this is why they became part of the system.
And you heard a lot, like you going back to what you said, it kind of became a thing from the studios, because we heard it from all of them. We don't want to hear from 50-year-old people. We want a 40-year-old white dude to tell me how good something is. Like, we keep hearing these things from executives inside the studio. So at some point they pivoted and decided, we're no longer going to care about, in fact, we're going to antagonize people that are 30, 40, 50, and we're going to specifically go for young Gen Z and Gen Alpha people. And they tried to go after them by pushing all this woke stuff, going, that's the direction everything needs to go. And it doesn't sell, because those people don't watch your shit anymore. The people that did watch, you told to fuck off. So that's just where we are now. And it took years to get here, and we're still going through it. But good job, Hollywood. Good job.
Giving access to like influencers also seems like just a terrible route, because how can you feign objectivity or anything when you get given like this all paid access, trips and everything to premieres and stuff. And Disparu and I watched what was going on with the Wheel of Time, because they tried to get the influencers to come out with Wheel of Time, and it's really hard to trust the reviewers afterwards being impartial when you're seeing like everything is tainted,
and they don't disclose either. Like, that's the one thing, like with tech reviewers, like one of the big things to gain trust is they have disclosures of, by the way, I was sent this product for free, this is all my own thoughts, right? They give that kind of stuff in the forefront. But these people who do the reviews, they've never had to do that, because people didn't really take it as seriously, but kind of need to at this point, because their trust has gone out the window.
Here's Matthew Bellani on his podcast. This clip was in our video.
All the the people that were hooting and screaming for do you believe they were paid plants? Because we talk about this
I genuinely don't know.
Disney denies it, but there were clearly influencers there.
Yes, absolutely. There was a core group of people who were given access to CinemaCon who were not there last year.
So she goes on to say, I just had to keep it down keep it, watchable in our video. But she goes on to say that for Disney, specifically for Disney and their reaction to Disney products and Doomsday, because Bellani said, well, it wasn't just Doomsday. And she's like, no, it was for genre for Disney. I don't know if all the studios went there, and you'd have to ask Gore like how the reaction was to Supergirl and everything, but it did. And Ryan pointed this out. It sounded an awful lot like Comic-Con at CinemaCon, which it doesn't sound like at CinemaCon. CinemaCon is a bunch of fucking critics and shills who get in there, but they're not like over enthusiastic and screaming.
There are a handful of people that do go traditionally every year that cover movies and stuff like that. Right, Chris is one, Campy's crew and stuff like that. There are some, but for like the more fanboyish type of things, that's just not the case.
No, the tickets are $1,400 to $1,700 if you're not media.
Right.
If you're
you remember
not
last year when the Thunderbolts came out and they did that whole bit where like they were Vegased up and causing a muck or whatever, and they rolled out like they did that whole bit as if it was a Comic-Con and people would be excited, but it was more of an industry event. It was just an awkward situation. So I could totally see Disney going, all right, this time we need to have like, let's invite some people to come and then be excited about the Tony Stark coming out. I mean, that's
it's a trade show. If you go there and they're selling like candy, like red vines and popcorn buckets and stuff,
right?
It's theater stuff.
It's the executives that work inside of Cinemark and AMC. It's for those people. It's not really for
you. Don't need to instruct these people to cheer and be fanboys, though. This is, you can tell by their TikToks and stuff. You just what they do naturally. So it's like with Fortnite. Every single time that a new season came out, you knew which people would be screaming, despite the fact it was just a normal skin would appear next to them.
Yeah. But the question is, did Disney get them there, right? That is a huge thing. If Disney's the one that was able to get them access to this thing or paid for their access or whatever, at the end of the day, this is just how it goes now. All of these studios do this. It's not a Disney
they're all doing
thing. Just take a look at some of the people who spend all day, every day, 250 tweets a day, tweeting about James Gunn's Superman and fighting the good fight just so that they can be at the next premiere or get invited on set or whatever that may be. Like that's the way all these guys are playing this now.
Yeah, think about it, Ryan. It makes more sense for them to do this. After all, these are the people Pablo Hidalgo did fund rewriting Ripley. So it's easily within the realm of possibility that Disney
it's not even hard.
Flocked out for these people to come. Easy.
Yeah. Oh, and I think this is the way it goes. And I think it's like Matthew Bellani says, well, it's all fake. And it's all, it's always been fake. It's always been fake. I'm not going to say Matthew Bellani himself, but people who work at Hollywood Reporter and Variety now are really not that different than a Mary Sue. Yeah. They're not anymore. So it's always been fake.
And it's their fault because they degraded themselves down from being a prestigious like journalism publication that would do real stories. They brought themselves down to the level of a Mary Sue, and then Mary Sue came down to the level of influencer, and now influencers are replacing you.
So how did that superfan thing work out for Rings of Power? That might be the most famous.
Well, a lot of those English ones are actually, they seem to be on retainer with Amazon because they come back for project after project after project, all their marketing videos and things. So I think you will find these companies just kind of have reliable
because they now, these influencers now have the same agents as the actors.
Right. Yep.
They all have the same agencies as the actors. Those agencies have been actively following, looking for YouTube. And we've reported on YouTubers and influencers.
They threatened people that if you don't side with us in the strike, we will never let you into our union. And that was, they thought that carried weight.
And it didn't.
But that is the new strategy. They figured out that they can't market towards Gen Z and Gen Alpha because they don't watch the traditional ways that marketing works. So they can't get to them. So they think if we get all these influencers on set, they'll do their videos and they'll go on TikTok and it'll go all over the place. And that's how we market to them. So that's the new strategy. That's why you're seeing it on the set of Harry Potter. You're seeing it on the set of Superman or whatever. That is
this has never worked.
No,
we've never seen a social media marketing campaign that has culminated with massive success because of it.
You had Barbie and things like that worked. The issue with this one specifically is because these people are just hype people, all their audience are also just hype people. They just like the feeling of being excited about something, and then they may never go to it.
Barbie was always going to do massive.
Interested.
It was always going to do massive because there was an inbuilt female audience for it. Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan. A lot of interest in Christopher Nolan. To do the
Jeremy.
The Barbieheimer stuff was just kind of like a natural organic thing, which kind of created itself in a way. But in terms, it was just
you'll always get one movie like that. Like every couple of years, you'll get one that's super hyped and it actually works because it satisfied its core audience in some manner. I wasn't Barbie's core audience, so whatever. But they're trying to do that with everyone now, and they really need it to happen with Doomsday, and we haven't seen shit. So all I've heard is hype. I've seen 4 boring trailers, a chair stream, and a bunch of hype, and a Lego version of the trailer. Now, is that building hype? A little bit, but they need to build a lot more with this.
It has done a job to a certain extent, right? But is it going to be enough? Is it going to pay off? That's a big question that I have a lot of doubts about. But if that is the strategy, if they are actively doing this, if this is what Disney has done, is paid these people to be there, and I'm not talking about writing checks to people and giving them cash to say something nice. What we're talking about, when we're talking about them being paid off or whatever, it's, hey, we'll get you out here, your hotel, you get access to the event, you get exclusive interviews, and it's not said, but it's implied and ultimately comes to fruition. If you don't say nice things about the film, that's fine.
You won't be back.
But we won't be having you back here.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and it's coordination through agents and managers like William Morris Agency. They're going after YouTubers now. Trust me, I know.
Did they go after you?
Maybe. I'm going to stay mom and pop. I'm a big dummy. I don't recommend any. If somebody wants to work with you and they can make you some extra money, I say go ahead and do it. I'm a freaking idiot. I'm not doing it. So here we have Grace, who's got an agency. She's got a full staff. Let's hear some of her wisdom about this subject we were just talking about.
Well,
not makeup.
It didn't. I don't know. It just didn't. Both of them though. I was surprised. Were so heavy with influencers. A lot of influencers at both premieres. And I've told you before that this is Hollywood's attempt to work around critics. Rotten Tomatoes has really weaponized critics reviews, right? Thanks, Bubbles. But influencers, and I don't think this is going to last for very long because influencers are always positive. It's their job to like everything that they're paid to like. They're hired. I mean, they're not always hired, but they want to keep getting invited back so they can keep posting from these sorts of events, right? Like it's very short-sighted if an influencer says, oh, this movie sucked, but then they don't get invited to any more premieres. What does that do for content for their social media? So, not great, not great.
Not great.
But yeah, it's something that I've seen and a lot of other critics have noticed that a lot of, that's funny, little Milo. I am kind of in both areas. I'm a bit of an influencer, but also a critic. But because I'm a critic and I'm part of professional organizations, again, at the end of the day,
oh my God, finish the sentence.
Because you're the ones who I need to like and watch my videos, right? I can always catch the movie on Thursday night if I have to.
You can. See, that's the thing is you can always catch the movie on Thursday. You don't need to see it early anymore. It's just if you're even of the mindset like it'd be nice once in a while to get a video done before it comes out, but I don't care. I don't give a shit. I've done it twice.
There is no difference between it. She's trying to draw a separation between influencers and critics, and there isn't one. Both of them need to give good reviews, otherwise they won't come back. So if you do value getting a review out on time, you will obviously softball it. As this is one of the reasons why there was always big Marvel movies that the critics absolutely adored. And you're like, I don't believe you. Your review is like, this is fresh. And then underneath it was like, well, you know, it was pretty awful. The script sucks, the plot sucks, the graphics sucks, but it's overall, you should go and watch it.
Critics were early influencers. Like, critics used to actually move box office. They actually used to influence people's opinions. And so it's kind of hilarious just for her to be so unaware of herself. Yeah. And that's why it's so funny.
And then Bubbles calling her out.
The whole thing is, whatever it was. The whole thing has kind of a lot of layers to it because there absolutely is a feud right now between traditional critics and then non-traditional critics or reviewers.
You don't say.
You want to call them. I hate the idea of like the influencer label, but there's also different levels, right? There's the people who will just shill for whatever versus people who are just doing their own things on their own YouTube channel, whatever. Yeah. There are some critics who are at levels or working with organizations where they can give things poor reviews and it's not going to matter. They're not going to get blacklisted because of the place that they work at. They're not going to have their authority taken away because of the place that they work at, the platform.
Because of the place that they work at. That's key. Right. Sorry, go on, Ryan.
But it's funny because there's some people who are in that line between, like Grace Randolph, who I don't view the same way I view like the doomsday influencers who are there for that. I actually think that Grace's takes are authentic. I just think most of them are shit. Like often, you know what I mean?
Agreed.
And I have much more respect for that. Somebody who I do think is giving their genuine opinion, even if it's fucking terrible, than the people who will just say anything for access.
When Grace said that Starro killed too many diverse people, I believed her. I think that was a genuine take.
Agreed.
It was from the heart.
There's some critics who are popping off over the reaction to the Michael movie and the difference between the audience score and the critics score. And you got some critics who are out there being like, I think that this is being unfair towards us. It's okay to not like a movie and blah, blah, blah. They're getting hammered, obviously. But there's a lot of sensitivity from the critics right now towards how people view the gap between their opinion and the audience's opinion.
Yeah, I think it's, and a lot of it is, and it's really, I think it's really ironic. With it's not every critic, so I've only seen a handful. This is anecdotal, guys. Don't want to be unfair to the people who are always unfair to us. That a lot of these reviews are telling the movie what it should have been, instead of what it was, right?
Yeah, a movie that's in their head is what they're talking.
The
about.
Movie that's in their head and the story they think should be told because of their whatever, instead of as a corporate critic, your job is to this is dream world, but your job is to be objective and walk in and react and give an opinion over the thing you saw, not the thing you think you should have seen, right?
Not the thing you want to see or the thing that may have been there before a reshoot or whatever. And I do think that's probably the case because, again, if you walk into the Michael Jackson movie and expect every shred of fucking detail that you've ever heard on any tabloid magazine or any courtroom or whatever, that's not what it is. It's just about kind of his early life and him becoming a pop star. Like that's really what it is.
Shouldn't we blame, and I'm sure we will and do, but the people who run these events, if they're if they stop inviting people back because they give negative reviews, wouldn't that, I mean, I could understand how people then be scared to give a negative review. Why wouldn't the people who run the events just be like, well, we'll invite critics regardless or not of, they've given us.
That's what they say. Right. So it depends. And I think nothing needs to be said, Chrissy. So it's a good point, but nothing needs to be said. They're inviting you to these events and they go, say anything. And they know that
here's
people,
a bag.
It's human nature. You were given this nice gift bag. You were given this thing. And you're like, but they were so nice to me. Right. Yeah. It's manipulation. And you know it. Listen, there's things, Chrissy, there's things I have not covered specifically because I knew somebody was working on it or a good friend of mine. We're going to be talking about it. I feel free to talk about the show now. But the first, I didn't want to talk about The Boys. Right. Because a good friend of mine co-created it. So I would be totally biased. And, even if I fucking hated it, I wouldn't want to like hurt his feelings or anything like that. This is one specific thing.
if you remember the Rings of Power, they invited them down to London specifically to meet the showrunners. Because once you've got a personal relationship with someone, you've met them face to face, you'll feel closer. With the best will in the world, even if you intend to be neutral, it's very difficult to keep that when you actually know the person behind.
It's really hard. I'm sure some people can, but I'm human. So.
After they met him, they were like, "Well, I had a lot of, I was apprehensive about it, but now that after I met them, they're really nice guys and all this stuff." And it's like,
that's the toughest thing I've ever reviewed was when Gina did the Terror on the Prairie movie. That was the most difficult. That was the most difficult thing ever. Being invited by her to go watching it like in a place with a lot of people who were very excited for the movie, and then having to try to remove all of my biases and thinking about how everyone knows I was there. So I need to be extremely clear with this thing. And I think I ended up getting like a 5 or a 5.5 or something. But after that, I'm like, I never want to do that again.
It's not fun.
Because it's just, there's so much, like, there's way more stuff going on in your head if you're trying to be objective about it and non-biased than there should be. It's just not worth it. Especially when authenticity is like the only thing that matters in what we do.
And there's 1,000 people out there that don't give a fuck about that. All they want to do is get to the event, get their gift bag, be able to talk about all this stuff, get the clicks. And then if you say no, if you're one of these influencers and go, well, I didn't like that, there's 1,000 people behind you that they'll go, okay, next person.
Exactly. So and listen, it's not always the case. I can't say who, but like I covered something I fucking hate to this day with the intensity of 10,000 Suns, and I am friends with somebody who worked on it. So thing is, they hated it as much too. So it was Star Trek. So we'll just say that Discovery, not other Star Trek.
Considering like the difficulty I had doing that and trying to make sure I was as objective as possible, maybe never want to do that again. But so many of these fucking people in the Access Media space, they are close to these people who are working on it. They're friends with the writers. They're friends with these people. Even if you're trying, it's almost an impossible task to be completely objective for something like that. So the
last thing you want to do is shit on your friends.
In that position.
You also have, from the critics' perspective, there used to be in like an elite niche group, and it's exclusivity that gives something value. And so they felt special when they were at these events. Even in the studio, you have Seth Rogen talking to someone at the Golden Globes, and they're like, yeah, it used to just be for us and it's our celebration, but now they've got all these influencers here. And it devalues it for them because they're no longer as special as they used to be. So they're going to have a chip on their shoulder on these people, even if they were doing a perfect job. They would always try and slander them.
Exactly. Grace mentioned in that clip that she said, well, I'm part of the Critics Association and blah, 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 blah. It's really important to them.
I'm a critic, but you're just a pleb.
You're just a pleb influencer. And I hate that word. I fucking hate that word. And it's not like they're not annoying either. So, I just don't think things are going to get better because Bolani, was right when it's all fake. Well, it's always been fake.
You better run, you better do what you can.
Please subscribe.
You want to be tough, better do what you can. So be